Yo, what's up, my AP Gov squad? It's Mr. H, and today we're going to change it up. We're going to do something unique, something new. First block. They about to get on this mic and drop some knowledge for y'all, so let's lock in and let's go. Today we're unlocking the cheat code to the U.S. Constitution, separation of powers, checks and balances, a.k.a. how the government avoids becoming one-branch dictatorship with main character energy syndrome. And trust me, if you understand this topic, you'll breeze through Unit 2, Congress, the presidency, and the courts, and the big bad federal bureaucracy. This is the foundation of how power flows and how it can catch me outside. How about that when someone gets too power hungry? So let's get locked in. Let's go. All right, segment 1, the trust issues, the government edition. Okay, squad, imagine you just finished a long, toxic relationship. Red flags, they were everywhere, and you straight up ignored them. That was American 1787 after breaking up with King George III. Big crown, big ego, major control freak.
The founders were basically like the original Avengers, fresh off fighting the final boss of colonialism. They were like, hey, we just escaped a monarchy, never again, fam. So how do you actually stop a government from turning into a tyrannical dumpster fire? You split the powers like a Brooklyn pizzeria pizza, equal slices, nobody gets the whole pie. Boom, separation of powers. Big shout out to Montesquieu, the OG, who said, if one person runs all three branches, that's how you get a dictatorship, not a democracy.
Here's how our founding fathers sliced it up. Legislative branch, Congress, writes the laws. Think the brains of the operation. Constitutional source, Article 1. The executive branch, that would be the president, enforces the laws. Think the action hero. Think main character energy. Constitutional source, Article 2. Judicial branch, courts, interprets the laws. Think the friend who knows the rules and isn't afraid to correct you. Constitutional source, Article 3.
Ready, go.
Here's the analogies. If they were YouTubers, Congress, that'd be the Educational Explainer channel that drops a 20-minute video on how bills become laws. The president, the daily vlogger with drama, bold moves, and a lot of comments. The courts, reaction channel that pauses your videos every 3 seconds to say, technically, that's unconstitutional. 3 branches, 3 powers, 1 purpose. Nobody gets too powerful. Back in 1787, trust issues were a meme. They were the whole reason the Constitution even exists.
Wick, switch up, let's go, mini rap battle, no clap, just checks. Now this is Mr. H, a.k.a. the notorious T-E-A-C-H. And we about to hear somebody drop some straight up mic drop lyrics. Ready? Let's go.
Hey, it's Congress. I write the laws, got the power in my hand. Override your veto, you better understand.
I'm the president, commander-in-chief, enforcing my game, executive orders, remember the name.
Quiet in court. I make the final call. Strike down your laws if it don't fit at all.
All right, that last one, in case you didn't get it, that's the Supreme Court, guys. Boom! Separation of powers, checks and balances in under 30 seconds. How about that? Let's say one branch of government wakes up and decides it's the main character. Starts acting reckless, power hungry, full villain arc unlocked. That's where checks and balances swoop in like the drama filter on TikTok, calling out the chaos and keeping everyone in balance. Every branch has receipts. Every branch can hit back. Here's how they keep each other in check. 1.
Presidential checks, commander and flex, veto power. Congress passes a bill banning TikTok. POTUS pull up and says, yeah, kick rocks. Executive orders. The president can drop major moves like canceling student debt or setting travel bans. But don't get too comfy. The courts of Congress can say, we ain't signing off for that, bro.
Constitutional check, the clapback committee, override a veto. Congress could say respectfully no and pass the law anyway with a 2-3 vote is given reverse or no, the energy, you know what I mean? Impeachment power, when the president goes way off script like Anakin, Avengers of the Sith, turning full dark side. Congress pulls an Obi-Wan Kenobi. You were supposed to protect democracy, not destroy it. The House brings the charge. The Senate runs the trial. Think of it as a government courtroom edition of the TV show Survivor. If you never watched Survivor, it's straight up slaps for real. confirming judge. The Senate reviews Supreme Court nominees like they're on American Got Judicial Talent. If the nominee doesn't bring the receipt, reject it.
Judicial checks are like the final boss of accountability. Judicial review is where the Supreme Court can say, this law, yeah, that's unconstitutional. It's the OG version of getting ratioed into another dimension, but by the Constitution. Huge shout out to Marbury v. Madison for unlocking this move like a hidden cheat code.
All right, fam, moving on to segment 3, examples that straight up slap on the AP exam. Let's get it.
Okay, squad, this is your MCU in-game level moment for checks and balances. The AP exam isn't just going to hand you a vocab word and say define it. Nope, they'll toss it to you in a messy political tea spill, Boston Tea Party pun intended, and expect you to connect the dots. So let's run through the greatest hits of government drama, aka when the Congress pulled out the receipts and said, nah, you're not above the Constitution, fam.
Impeachment equals when Congress hits block. Andrew Johnson. This man was beefing with Congress like it was Twitter X beef. He tried to fire his Secretary of War without Senate approval, which is a big no-no. Congress was like, that's sus, bro, and impeached him. Almost removed. Saved by one vote in the Senate. Literally just one. AP angle. Violation of the Tenure of Office Act equals test of executive versus legislative power. Major checks and balances moment.
Richard Nixon, 1974, caught spying on his political ops Watergate and tried to cover it up. Before the House could hit him with the official impeachment, Nixon rage quit like a gamer after losing 3 rounds in a row. AP angle. This impeachment didn't shake the presidency. It marked the start of America's trust issues with politicians. But at the same time, it boosted faith in the Constitution. People saw the system could still check the highest power in the land. Leaders might fall, but the rule book could hold.
All right, Mr. H here on the beat. Y'all listen real quick. So with Richard Nixon's impeachment, this is a moment Americans lost faith in our federal government, specifically the presidency. And in a country where rule of law matters, leaders must be held accountable instead of ruled by law. His impeachment would have been a moment that actually showed Americans, hey, maybe government can work when a leader breaks the law. So again, we're rule of law, not ruled by law. And Nixon probably would have been the first one impeached if he had not stepped down. All right, next one up. Bill Clinton, 1998, lied under oath about extracurricular activities. I did not have relations with that woman. He's from Arkansas, so that's an Arkansas accent. The House was like, perjury. That's a wrap, fam. But the Senate shrugged and said, we're not kicking him out over this. So he stayed. AP angle here. The Constitution says you can be impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors. But removal is a whole nother level. It's important to mention that the Democratic Party, which was Bill Clinton's political party, had a majority in the Senate. So POTUS had friends in high places, guys, and he was not about to get removed.
Yup, he made history twice. First for abuse of power and obstruction, Ukraine scandal. Second for inciting insurrection, January 6th Capitol riot. House impeached him both times. Senate said, we see it, but we're not moving him. AP angle. This is the modern example of party polarization in government. Even with serious accusations, removal is almost impossible without bipartisan unity. It takes 2/3 Senate vote, 67 out of 100, which is hard to get in a split or hyper-polarized government.
All right, real quick, AP Gov squad. Hey, some key vocab, guys. Party polarization means Democrats and Republicans are like magnets. They have pushed so far apart that they can't see eye to eye on anything. We good? And then also, bipartisan means two parties hop on and are kind of with it, right? So they're agreeing. They're almost compromising. Two political parties are joining up here. So when in doubt, remember, impeachment is a political accountability tool. Removal is seriously rare, but it needs serious consensus. The system works, but only if the players play fair. All right, moving on. Judicial slaps. When the courts pull out the Uno reverse card. Let's go.
All right, the judicial branch just slid in the group chat like, y'all forgot we're the final boss. We don't talk much, but when we do, it's game over. Let's run the receipts on when SCOTUS flexed harder than the final exam curve. Now, in United States versus Nixon in 1974, Nixon really said, I don't have to give you my tapes. Executive privilege, duh. But the Supreme Court hit him with a crisp Uno reverse and said, cute argument, but nah, hand over the tapes. Plus 1,000 aura to the judicial branch. Now, let's prove the courts can check the president, even when he's trying to hide behind executive power like it's plot armor. No one's above the law, not even the commander-in-chief.
Okay, Mr. H here. So just keep in mind the president, which we'll go over in Unit 2, has some executive powers, such as executive privilege, executive orders. And for executive privilege, that basically means his communication can say secret. But in this case, Congress demanded his recordings from the Oval Office, and he had to give them up.
DAPA blocked 2016. President Obama tried to roll out the DAPA, Deferred Action for Parents of Americans, which would have let certain undocumented immigrants stay temporarily, but not so fast. The federal court blocked it, and when it reached SCOTUS, split decisions 4-4, RIP to the 9th justice spot. So the lower courts, nah fam, held strong. Translation, even executive orders with good vibes and real support can get smacked down if the courts think it's unconstitutional.
The courts just don't sit back, guys. They've got the final word. They're the shield for the American people's civil liberties and civil rights. And thanks to judicial review, shout out Marbury versus Madison, the judicial branch can hit pause on any presidential overstep or overreach. Even executive flexes can get checked, corrected, and shut down if they break the rules. All right, let's move on to Congress fights back. The legislative grow up, and I'll go ahead and read this one. Just because SCOTUS drops a ruling doesn't mean Congress has to sit there sipping tea. Sometimes the legislative branch pulls up receipts and says, not today, Supreme Court. Case in point, Religious Freedom Restoration Act, 1993. After SCOTUS ruled in Employment Division versus Smith that states could deny unemployment benefits to people fired for using illegal drugs, even if it was part of a religious ceremony. Congress is like, hold up. That ain't it. They passed RFRA to clap back, reinforcing religious freedom and saying, we're rewriting the narrative with legislation. This was Congress's flexing its Article 1 powers and checking the judiciary by changing the legal framework, and future courts would have to work within that new legislation. All right. RFRA was later used in Supreme Court cases like Burwell versus Hobby Lobby, 2014, where the courts ruled that closely held companies could refuse to provide certain contraceptives, birth control, like Plan B and IUDs, their employees' health care insurance through their employees' health care insurance if it violated their religious freedoms. The Green family, owners of Hobby Lobby, were Christians who argued that being forced to cover these forms of contraceptives went against their religious convictions. The court sided with them, applying this act to protect their rights to exercise their religion and how they run their businesses. All right, segment 4, guys. Federalist 51, a required document here. All right, squad, time for the final boss of today's episode, Federalist 51, a.k.a. James Unk Madison's TED Talk on how to keep power from turning people into full-blown tyrants. Let's set the scene. It's the late 1780s. The Constitution's just been written. And not everyone's vibing with it. People are worried the new federal government is going to turn into King George 2.0. So Madison grabs his feather quill and hits us with straight fire wisdom in Federalist 51. His way of saying, chill, fam. We thought this through. Let's break down some of Unk's most famous quotes. P.S. This first quote is my favorite, in case y'all are wondering. If men were angels, no government would be necessary. Translation, if humans were perfect, no lying, no cheating, no flexing on TikTok for clout, we wouldn't need laws or leaders. But spoiler alert, we aren't angels. We ghost people. We run red lights. And some of us still don't return shopping carts. Yeah, you know who you are. Next, if angels were to govern men, no external or internal controls on government would be necessary. Translation, even if our leaders were perfect, we wouldn't need to check them. But again, reality check. Politicians aren't angels either. And next, ambition must be made to counteract ambition. Translation, that's the whole vibe check of checks and balances. Don't act like people aren't selfish, guys. Spoiler alert, they are. Each branch wants power, but they desire actually keeping the others in check.
So what do? We build a system that checks everyone. The people, the president, Congress, and the courts. Madison basically said, your power is tempting. So let's build a system where even the powerful get checked. Think about it. We still use this system to hold power accountable. Impeachments, checks, Supreme Court rulings, checks, Congress suing the president, checks. It's like Madison built the original group chat where everyone's calling each other out before things get messy. So next time you're annoyed that the government moves slow, remember, that's the point. It's slow on purpose because power, just like a holographic Charizard, needs to be protected from greedy hands. As Uncle Ben famously said in that Spider-Man 2002 movie, with great power comes great responsibility. Wait, sorry, this is AP Gov. With great power comes great checks and balances. There we go. Much more, I'm not saying that.
There we go. Much more demure and constitutional. All right, so that's it for this episode. Thank you to my first block students for hopping on with me. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, stay locked on Gov. Peace.